feel the wrath of Mr. Gnome? Do you feel it? The wrath of Mr. Gnome? Welcome to the Hey Guys podcast. I'm Rob, this is Liam, and we have guest Dave, as we do every Christmas. Guest Dave. We have guest Dave. Right.
Welcome, guest Dave.
I have no intro, as you can tell, this week. But after the last two shoddy Christmas choices, we have a really good Christmas choice. Yeah. This week we watched Turbo Kid, 2015, set in the future of 1990, the post-apocalyptic future of 1997.
The Canadian post-apocalyptic future of 1997, yes.
Sorry, that's my intro. So let's get straight, into the film. I think it's fucking fantastic.
Before you get into the film, I'd just like to say thank you for inviting me back into a really high-budget, high-quality film, as I'm usually invited into. So
yeah, we always pick that. Oh, no, in fairness, what was last year? Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon was last year, and we had you came back for Total Recall as well. I think.
Oh, come on, Total Recall and Lethal Weapon. I mean, yeah,
Red Dawn was.
Red Dawn was. Yeah.
Course,
but to be fair, I mean, I'm not sure if anyone else has written down the budget. It wasn't highly budgeted.
$60,000.
I know, but
it does show
for an entire film.
They did a lot. Mine was $60,000. It's great. Did you notice, Liam? I wanted to ask you. I watched this with Dave a couple of days ago, so he heard my joke. Did you notice Rufio in the film?
No, I didn't. What, from Hook?
Yeah.
No.
So Michael Ironside's second in command, who's wearing that gold breastplate.
Yeah. That's Rufio. Oh well, he had show. He was one of those.
I'm
weird
taking
ones.
a piss. It's really not Rufio, but she looks.
It's not him. It's a shame. 'Cause I had a whole thing about like Rufio was one of those child actors where, like, in 1993 or whatever it was when Hook was made, he was like so cool and he was like the handsome kid. And then they have those kind of like callbacks, don't they? When they get the cast back together and you see Rufio now and go, oh, what happened?
What's Rufio's real name?
As it turns out, Rufio turns out to be a really beautiful woman.
Yeah.
So,
oh, well, there we go. Sorry.
Rufio Dante Basco.
Is that his real name?
Yeah, and he's done a lot of voice acting in
Jesus
the last...
Christ. It's almost like we wish we were recording Hook instead. No, we're stuck with
Rufio.
The most Christmas movie of all time. But no, it's a strange film. Obviously, you guys, I don't think it's any surprise, you guys both love this film. I wouldn't go as far as say I love it, but I've never been so conflicted about a movie maybe in my whole life, in terms of when I was usually I think like once I'm like 30 minutes, 45 minutes into a movie, I've got a pretty good idea about how I feel about it. With this, I still wasn't sure. And now that I've seen the whole film, I'm still not 100% sure.
I made a bold claim last week. At the end of our episode, I made a bold claim, and I want to know if it's true. I said, no matter how you feel about the film, I think you'll fall in love with Apple.
Oh, 100%. That is probably my favourite character in the film. No, 100% my favourite character in the film.
Yeah.
It's so easy to fall in love with Apple. And what I loved about it is, because again, I went to this film not knowing anything about it. And you think, like, with all these movies nowadays, there's, what's that trope? It's like the manic dream pixie girl.
Yeah.
I always think of, like, Zooey Deschanel in, like, 500 Days of Summer and stuff like that. These girls who, like, every geek falls in love with, but doesn't actually exist. And I love in this film that you're like, well, this girl's too perfect. It's like a dystopian future. Her hair is fucking faultless. She's so fun. She's so adorable. But she doesn't exist because she's actually a fucking robot. And I thought, like, when I found out she was a robot, I was like, oh, that's genius. Because I genuinely had that issue. I was like, she's too nice. She's too adorable. This isn't going to work. When I found out she was a robot, I was like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. And allows you to get away with the manic dream pixie girl because she doesn't exist unless, of course, she's actually a robot.
I saw something, right? She is probably the second biggest character within the film.
Yeah,
100%.
I didn't realise this was a thing. Have you ever heard of the Bechdel test?
No. We weren't expecting this. This sounds a little bit sciencey for my taste.
I mean, I didn't come along to pass a fucking testing.
I mean, we've had a couple of drinks here, buddy.
So this isn't technically about the film, but as I was reading up about the film, the Bechdel test is something about anything in a film where there are less women within the film, and if there isn't two women who talk to each other about anything other that isn't men. And I look back at this film, there is only two women in the film.
Yeah,
it's
Rufio.
Apple and Rufio.
Yeah.
They don't talk to each other.
No.
Other than this, it's all just white men fighting. And I know this is post-apocalyptic and things, but I thought that was quite an interesting thing, that there aren't any women and they don't talk to each other about anything.
Well, no, but the thing is that is the point. Like, you have that issue in a lot of movies. But in this, it kind of gets away with it again because she's a robot. You're like, oh, she's too perfect. She's too adorable. But again, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter that she's only obsessed with guys because she was built that way.
I know why you love the mind. And I'm, again, making bold claims all the time. I know why you loved her. It's because her heart monitor was from Legend of Zelda.
That did help. That was very cool.
So when you see her heart monitor, Dave, it's from one of the Legend of Zelda games. I'm not too sure if you were a gamer.
It's basically all the Zelda games.
Okay.
Yeah. They always have the hard thing. But yeah, like, is it Lawrence LaBouffe? I'm not sure if I've typed that down right. Yeah. But she is,
no relation to Shia, by the way.
No, whatsoever. But I think she probably is the star of this film because obviously outside of the obvious star, I quote unquote, I will do air quotes for stars, but everyone else is pretty much unknown.
Yeah, Monroe Chambers is really unknown. Who plays Turbo Kid? The who has the best name in any film I've ever seen? Is it Frederick the Arm Wrestler?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
That's the best hero name I've ever heard.
He's a bit pony, but
he is and he is just delivering, I guess, just trope after trope after trope of speech.
Stereotypical.
Yeah, just everything. And then Michael Ironside, and then
you've got Michael Ironside, who is the obvious Hollywood eye catcher to try and bring some precedence to the film, but other than that, there is nobody, is
there? And that's, I mean, 60 grand you would have thought would get you Michael Ironside.
That's your budget.
Yeah. So I have no idea where they pulled money out from. But to be fair, as much as this film isn't a Christmas choice, the reason why I chose this film is because we're releasing this episode after Christmas, and I really wanted to get Dave's thoughts on this film as well, because we watch a lot of stuff randomly outside of this, stuff that nobody has ever heard of. I mean, go and watch Rubber if you've never heard.
I have actually seen Rubber. Yeah,
Rubber is insane, but
I mean that's an acid dream if anyone's ever made a film. There.
I mean, this film, when you guys said, "Oh, we want to do this," I was like, "Of course, you guys want to do this. Of course." I mean, I was aware of this movie going into it, but it wasn't one I felt compelled to watch. And despite I do have issues with this film, I am glad I watched it.
Yeah,
because my first issue with this film is that when I think of a lot of these films which try and go back and do like quote unquote 80s movies, everything is done with a nod and a wink. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't work. And that was my concern. And there was an element of that at the start. And when I think of these films, stuff like The Expendables, which should have been absolute money for me. I didn't like The Expendables, again, because they didn't film like an 80s film. It was too self-aware of the fact that it was trying to do an 80s film. Yeah. Something like Snakes on a Plane, where it's trying to do that kind of like high-concept 80s thing. But again, it's too winky, too knowing. The reason that I love 80s films, and we go back to them, is because there's
it's of its time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not just that, but these super violent films, but they're done with this like weird sense of innocence. Like everything is just so straight down. Like there's no winking or anything. They're just like, we thought this was the bomb. And I mean, I know you didn't like Christmas Vacation last year, but if we take like John Hughes as an example, John Hughes films wouldn't work nowadays because you couldn't do it with that same sense of innocence. Everything would be far too knowing. If you going back and watching, say, Breakfast Club now, it can be a bit of an experience.
Yeah.
But if you watch it through like an 80s lens, there's a certain charm to it. And the fact of the matter is that film will never be made again in that kind of format. And with this, I thought there was going to be a lot of winking and nodding and all that jazz. But then as you watch it, you're like, no, it's just pure homage. Like, they never make fun of themselves. They take it all seriously in their own way.
Do you know, it feels like... I don't know if you two have ever watched this. There's a film called, I think it's called Prayer of the Solar Babies. Or it might just be called Solar Babies. It's, you know who Jason Patrick is?
Yeah.
So Jason Patrick, it was a film set in 1980... it was filmed, in 1987, I think. Same as when this was meant to be set. Oh, no, sorry, it was 1997. But it's about, there's no water in the world. And a bunch of, they're run by a corporation, kind of like what this film is. But they all play this really weird sport on rollerblades.
Yeah.
And then it's about them going away. And what I liked about this was the fact that everything is set. The main transportation in this is BMXs.
Which is fucking awesome.
But it is awesome. And the violence, I think, is not 80s. I think the violence might...
I do have an issue with that.
Yeah, that goes a bit... But the whole, the future is everything's on BMX, which I get. I mean, if the future is post-apocalyptic,
I guess
the
the idea-
cowboy on a BMX.
yes, that kind of thing.
It loses a lot.
It takes a lot of the luster
yeah.
out of it, especially when you're dragging along Michael Ironside on some weird
Sidecar.
rickshaw,
Yeah.
and then the cowboy's on his sidecar. BMX and the whole like chase sequence, when you get the chase sequence and it's just done really really slowly because apparently these guys have just learned to ride a bike now, it kind of takes you away from it. But I still love that they've gone full pelt for this. They thought, you know what, this is what the film is, I'm gonna go for it, and I love that.
Well, that's the thing. Like, oh, sorry.
Go on, no, I was just going to say that the thing, as soon as it started, the thing that caught me, which I've seen this film a couple of times, that I never noticed the first time, was it's a very unique collaboration. It's a Canadian-New Zealand film. So the fact that it's two opposite sides of the planet, and I never noticed. You do hear Australian voices within.
Oh yeah,
especially at the beginning.
Yeah.
You know, you can hear it there, and then all of a sudden, it's very. What I would assume was an American film, but it's a Canadian film.
Yeah.
So
Well, I actually thought the intro. I wasn't sure if like the parody and the pastiche started there.
Yeah.
Because there were so many of those companies at the start. When you start the
It said
film,
the same thing.
It's ridiculous. You know, like I think
wait
there
till
was
fact time.
There was like a Simpsons episode where they go to the cinema and they keep thinking the film started, but it's just another production company. And it just kept coming and coming. I was like, have all of fucking Canada been involved in this film? It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's a $60,000 film. At the end of the day,
So they needed help.
took the help.
Well, did they take like a tenner off every company? It was absolutely
I'm assuming so.
absurd. All right, so
Can I ask, in regards to the film, Bernie arm wrestling, you can only do that once per hand, can't you?
Well, you can only do it once per hand before you get burnt. I'd imagine there are
you
people
still go, yeah.
with terribly mangled backhands.
It's like, what is it, Jackass 3, where they put that brand on Bam Margera's ass, but they keep fucking up the dick brand.
Yeah.
So, because you saw that guy, he had the perfect brand.
So I guess that's
the guard.
I guess that means that's the first time he's lost.
Yeah.
So if you've got a hand that's got multiple burns all over the back of it, it just means you're a
you've
shit
lost a
arm
lot.
wrestler.
I mean, you're not going to beat a guy called Frederick the Arm Wrestler.
Yeah, it's kind of in the name. You're like, geez, this could be an uphill battle. Yeah, but like you said, like I suppose you could just keep getting your hand burned, but eventually you just want to give it and be like, all right, I'm actually pretty shit at this.
You beat Dave the mangled hand.
Yeah,
wrestler.
if you're like trying to bet on it and you show up and he's like, I'm going to arm wrestle you, and his hand is literally just burned to shreds, like, I reckon I'm going to fucking take this dude.
Would you rather play Bernie arm wrestling or Blender Fire arm wrestling?
That was brilliant. The way he was so angry that the fire wasn't fiery enough. for
Yeah.
him. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Well, that was one of the things with this film. It was like you said, I had that issue at the start that I wasn't sure what kind of tone they were going for. You know, I referred to the fact that, you know, despite the fact that this is a parody, that is a pastiche and stuff like that, the reason I think it ultimately works and why I was eventually won over to it is that it never makes fun of the source material. Yeah. And I think that is the essential thing. And I think that's why other films of this ilk have failed, is that they go back and they're making fun of the 80s. This never did. It's knowing, of course, it can't help but be anything but the fact that it celebrates everything. Like, in terms of the movie, as ridiculous as it is, it always takes it seriously. Yeah. There's never, like, the kid, for instance, is always taking the role seriously. Michael Ironside is always as big as he's playing the villain, he's never winking at the screen. He's playing it like an 80s film. And I love the fact that, like you say, it's set in 1997, but in this world where we assume that the apocalypse happened in 1988, say. So pop culture just died that day. So everything that still exists, it all stopped in 1988.
What's that thing he's got on his neck? That I can never remember what they're called. Is it ColecoVision or whatever they're called?
The slide viewer.
Yeah.
Well, that's a perfect. Like, don't get me wrong. When I was watching this film, I was like, this isn't so much a parody or a pastiche of 80s movies, so much as a love letter to 80s culture. Don't get me wrong. I've got a list here of all the movies it nods to. But above all else, it's just like, remember the 80s? They were fucking dope. Like you said, the slide viewer, the power glove. The
writers made a thing about it, didn't they? With the dinosaurs. Apparently they had the dinosaur images quite a lot. They had it with the ColecoVision or whatever it was called. Yeah. And then they were down.
ColecoVision, wasn't that like a console?
It is.
I don't fucking know.
I think ColecoVision's a console. It is a slide viewer.
The slide viewer. Okay. With the slide viewer, and then there was dinosaurs down by the robot grave and everything, and then
robot grave, which is
we'll get to that.
Okay,
we'll get down there. But yeah, The dinosaurs seem to come up quite a lot, but from what I was reading, for some reason they decided they'd used dinosaurs too much, and they had to put like a ban on using the word dinosaur from that point on.
Was it just because dinosaurs were just considered cool in the 80s? I don't know.
Or there was just a lot of them around Montreal where they were filming, you know.
But that's the thing, the fact that it's filmed in Montreal. Like, I've again, another geography thing. I've been to Montreal, and it's a little bit...
Welcome to Geography by Liam.
Well, that's the thing. You can never tell because it's obviously filmed off in the middle of nowhere. But the three... And this is a weird thing about this film. There's three directors. It's Anik Wissel, Francois Simard, and Johan Carl Wissel. And they're known, and it is a little bit douchey, as RKSS, Roadkill Superstars. I've never heard of a directorial trio before, but it kind of works for this film. But other than this, they haven't done much else. I mean, they've done Summer of '84, which I haven't watched, admittedly. But they did a Ninja Eliminator TV short. I'm not sure if you guys ever watched that. No. It's basically like a 4-minute long trailer of just a love letter to kind of like old-fashioned ninja films. And that one is also filmed in Montreal, but it's filmed very clearly in Chinatown. So that was quite fun. That I could go like, I've been there, I know exactly where they are. But this, yes, it's filmed in Montreal, but it could be anywhere because they really, like you said, the budget is what, 60,000? You said
$60K for a whole movie.
Well, they filmed the majority of it in a field, but you know, when you consider, yes, it's a little bit chintzy, but the special effects and certainly the kills,
and also
they're quite impressive.
They found some kind of quarry. And
yes,
you know, they've obviously done different shots from different sides of the very same quarry.
I do love,
and, you know, it was brilliant. But to be honest, the film didn't lack for that. You know, it wasn't.
No, in the same way,
you never
the
just
first
thought, "Oh my
Max
god,
film.
they're just standing in the same field all the time."
And you need a quarry because, let's be clear, a lot of this is a love letter to BMX bandits. So you need jumps.
Yeah,
that's
but the small, I could make those jumps. The art director or the art designer in this film needs a medal. Because what he could make out of cardboard, when you could see Michael Lyons or Zeus's headquarters, every time it showed that, it looked like Skull Mountain.
That was a miniature right in front of the camera, right?
That was made out of cardboard. That was, but it looked like you would see Skull Mountain from Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, but the reason, again, that worked, though, is because they could have gone the easy way there of going, oh, look, it's clearly fake. But they do just enough to go, no, we're taking this seriously.
Okay.
We don't have the budget, so we kind of accept the fact that it doesn't look shit. But I think another film might have gone like, oh, well, let's just make fun of it and go, oh, look, it's clearly a fake. They never do that. And that, again, I think that's the reason this works. But, I mean, we mentioned the fact that this cost $60,000. How much went to Michael Ironside? I mean, I know he's not an A-lister, but Jesus Christ.
He literally...
half the budget has to go to that guy.
So I just did a quick... It's 67,000. So I'm assuming 60 went to him and 7,000 went to the film.
Well,
but he didn't lack for that, you know? I mean,
no, exactly.
No one's going into this film thinking it's going to be an Iron Man or anything like that. It's all going to be CGI.
Yeah.
It's not that type of film. And it's all on quite a budget location, in a quarry or in a field, that type of thing. So, you know, they found some abandoned things, and I think that's enough. You can make... It's not going to be an Oscar-winning film, and that's not why we're watching it. This is quite obviously a B movie.
Yeah.
But that's part of its charm, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
when it celebrates it, doesn't it? And, again, there were parts, and, don't get me wrong, I'm probably going to be a touch more critical of this film than you guys. There were times in this film when it felt like a well-budgeted university project. There's no two ways about it. And I was just like, you know, I think the directors are fine. I don't think it's a brilliantly made movie. And I know you can always look back at the budget, but you think of, and I won't list off examples, but there are fantastically well-made movies made for a similarly limited amount. I don't think this is a brilliantly made film. It's made with love, quite clearly, but it does feel like a university project to me at times. Admittedly, a well-made one, and it is very charming. There's probably a reason that these guys haven't gone on to make a whole bunch of films, because I'm not convinced that they're necessarily the best filmmakers in the world. You know, in the same way, you think of like... was it Aliens vs. Predator Requiem is a perfect example. Yeah. If you go and watch that film, it's clearly made by two people, because I think, again...
I'm wondering where he's going with this.
Well, it's two directors who love the source material. They tick every box when they make Aliens vs. Predator Requiem as a fan. You know, because you always get fans online always getting upset. It should be this, it should be that. On paper, Aliens vs. Requiem has everything you would want as a quote-unquote fan. However, the two guys who made it are also shite directors. And that's the problem. And they've made a rubbish film. This is better than that.
They had a boatload of cash.
They did.
And made a pretty weak film.
It was terrible.
This is a weak film with absolutely no cash. But a pretty...
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's a love story. It's a pleasant little...
I don't think they're shit directors. I don't think
No. I'm just be clear. I don't think they're shit directors. That sounds very harsh. I just think they're okay directors. But the reason this works isn't because I think they're especially gifted directors. I think they've just poured so much love into this.
Yeah.
And they've got so much kind of fondness for clearly 80s cinema and 80s culture. It all kind of falls out on screen. And as I said, the big thing is that they get the tone right.
They did a lot with the cash, though. That's
we keep going back to that money,
and that's a massive part of it.
Do you know what this film showed us that we already know in our own lives? Duct tape fixes everything.
Yeah, 100%. That is pretty cool.
Like, duct tape made the gnome stick, like, fucking indestructible. Duct tape makes the double hammer. That double hammer.
Well, one of our favourite TV shows of all time, Burn Notice.
Yeah.
He was an absolute legend of a man who could kill anyone, do anything you wanted, and he always said, weapons can save you, but duct tape makes you smart. And that is
he managed to fix Apple with duct tape. He took her head.
Yeah, he didn't do anything. He just taped her head on.
Mannequin. Yeah. He taped her up, and she was like, "Yeah, fine, I'm happy days now."
But even then, they don't really play it for laughs. And I think it's that commitment tone that allows, say, Apple at one point should show up on a unicorn BMX. I do apologize. And when she does, it's an oddly sweet scene. It's not. It doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel forced. It's just like, oh yeah, that's what Apple would do.
There's your female to female interaction. She stabs Rufio with a unicorn.
Oh, well,
oddly sexual.
Yes.
Which, I'll be honest with you, I found there were quite a lot of sexual moments in this film, and I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Do you mean sucking all the juices out of a person?
I mean, there's plenty of them. And like I said to Wes at the time, when you've got a thing on your arm that is in need of some kind of energy, I mean, that guy is basically tugging himself until that thing's full, right? I mean, that is motion capture.
It's his power glove.
His power glove.
I mean,
he is motion capturing everything he needs, blow by blow, as we go.
Yeah. I mean, if he was able to just go back home, put his used chewing gum away, and then give himself some, I guess, alone time, some Turbo Kid time. Then that would be charged to no end.
Well, that's the thing that, like, I actually, like, when I was watching this film, like, one thing, like you say, there's the sexual overtones kind of thing, and a big part of it is the violence, for instance.
Yeah.
I actually thought this film might have been better if it was a PG, bizarrely.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, because I was watching it, and the violence is fine. I actually feel like it's slightly out of place, I think this film is at its best when it's being quite sweet. I almost think when he kind of leans into, because obviously if you're doing an 80s homage in any, kind of way, you're obviously going to have your Amblin moments. And when I think of that, like, my favourite scene, I'm going to jump ahead here slightly, is the playground scene with the kid and Apple.
When he first meets her? Or?
When they kind of, like, they have their first kind of proper interaction together kind of thing. And they're looking at the stars and stuff like that. And, like, in that moment, when it was just kind of leaning purely into kind of a very sweet 80s movie, I thought that was when it was at its best. And when then, like, 2 minutes later, you get, like, let's be clear, the violence is utterly ridiculous. I'm like, I'm not sure if that necessarily fits into this film. I don't hate it, but I was like, I actually think this film might have been better if it had been a PG.
So you mean you want to get rid of the whole human centipede? I mean, body on body.
The human totem pole was the funniest thing I think I've seen in a long time.
It was weird at the end.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but it really absolutely hysterical.
You know what, right? So this film was filmed after a 5-minute concept trailer was made called Tears for Turbo. And Tears for Turbo is absolutely insane. It's all French Canadians speaking what I can only gather is their native tongue, so they're being dubbed. Yeah, so they're being dubbed. But then a lot of the concept that you get from that Tears for Turbo 5-minute trailer is put into this film.
The trailer's terrible. We watched it after the film, straight after the film, and it is not good.
It was like a proof of concept.
Yeah, so you get
but
you called it the human totem pole.
Yeah.
You get the turbo glove, things like that.
But you'd watch that, and at no point would I ever think, I would stick some money to that to make an actual film. But it is exactly the same as the film. So it's an odd thing to look at, because you think there's so many parts of this that actually make the film.
Yeah.
But it's so bad.
Oh, I guess they make it on
you would
such a low
laugh
budget
at that and
point.
think, just get out of my room. But it is, that is exactly what the film is. And, they ended up making what I think is a perfectly good movie out of it. So I guess that's the thing. You need a bit of vision, don't you? You need to look at these things and think, there is something in here.
Yeah.
Let's get some writers in and maybe move the story along a little bit.
Yeah. And I love about I love about these films is they're different. I love, and they're different. You think you look at 80s. What was that? Was it Red? No, it wasn't Red Dawn. There was a fucking Patrick Swayze film set from the 80s where he was a nomadic warrior trying to find water. Do you remember this film?
Trying to find water?
Yeah.
With Patrick Swayze?
Patrick Swayze.
No.
Was it real... Steel Dawn.
Steel Dawn.
Steel Dawn. Patrick Swayze.
Steel Dawn?
Steel Dawn.
I've seen Red Dawn.
Yeah, Red Dawn or Real Steel, but you get Steel Dawn.
There we go.
And it's Patrick Swayze as a nomadic warrior trying to find water and going up against people that control the water, which is basically what we have here. But I love the fact that it's different and it's odd and it's fucking nuts.
And it's not. I wouldn't even say it's like odd, because like it is just. It brings up. It's just little bits of a million films you've seen before.
It's lots of things.
Well, like I mean, I made a list here of all the films I think it references, whether on purpose or by accident. And
start with Steel Dawn, because it's definitely
Steel Dawn. I don't have that on the list, but then I've never seen that movie. But the obvious one, obviously, being Mad Max. There's definitely a nod to Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
Cyborg, again, even if it's unintentional, it's definitely in there. Yeah. BMX Bandits goes out saying. I mean, I've got stuff like the Ned's Power Glove, but that's more of a kind of 80s thing. But
I love the Power Glove.
Yeah, it's very good.
So rad.
So rad. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is plenty of that. Escape from New York. Soylent Green. Soylent Green.
Soylent Green, yeah, because
the water is people.
Where did you see a Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
One of the characters, like at the end, is clearly like
the skull dude.
No, not the skull dude. There's another dude, because they're fighting like a bunch of guys at the end. And one of them, I'm not sure if he actually has a chainsaw, but he has that kind of Texas Chainsaw Massacre look.
I mean, how you know about killings at the end? How do you kill somebody with a parasol?
Well, I have no idea, but that is the thing.
Apparently, it's quite sweet.
Well, yeah, I've got that down as a note. I was like, why is it like the parasol scene is incredibly violent, but somehow quite sweet? And to be honest, I've only seen this film once, and for the love of God, I can't remember why I typed that. But I assume it has something to do with Apple, because she's adorable.
The things she's written, though, I mean, like Mad Max, it's written all over, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a wasteland, they've all got makeshift weapons and things. Mm-hmm. Absolutely perfect. What was the other ones you were saying?
Big Trouble, Cyborg.
Big Trouble, I mean... The hats.
The hats.
Short of him shooting lightning. Thunder out of his fingers. I mean, 100%.
He was the red-headed stepchild of Papa Wastebasket Head, wasn't he? Let's be fair. Yeah. Like you had those three who went to Big Trouble in Little China, and this dude goes to Turbo Kid.
Yeah.
Like he had that weird face mask.
Yeah.
Because I think you said it perfectly as well. Big Trouble in Little China, but it was there was a little bit of Raiden in him as well.
Well, that's basically exactly the same.
Very Raiden looking. Yeah. It's that hat. Isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, Raiden is just a rip off of Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
But they've got the whole Karate Kid thing as well with Strike Hard, Strike First. That's basically just.
Well, you said stuff. Dave. You said that. That is so Cobra Kai. It's ridiculous.
100%. But I mean, the thing is, they don't even try and hide that. Like
they've got it perfectly. Strike first, strike fast, show no mercy. Eyes, throat, genitals.
Yeah.
Okay, the eyes, throat, genitals is added on. That wasn't included.
I think the first three and the second three, they all match up perfectly.
But that's how I'm approaching any fight I ever go in from now on. Right? Being a nearly 40-year-old man who lives in suburban Cardiff, I don't think I'm going to be having many fights. But if I do end up in a fight, eyes, throat, genitals is probably where I'm going.
It's a pretty good shout.
Yeah.
It's pretty, and the thing is, that is like one of the things with this film. I wasn't expecting to be quite as violent as it was, and I do think sometimes the overt kind of violence and whatever body horror, whatever you call it, does make up for the fact that it's not particularly well choreographed. I don't want to keep shitting on the directors. It's not amazingly well choreographed, and most of it. I can't tell if it's played for laughs or not. Some of it is, some of it isn't. Like you said, there's the parasol scene. The bike scene is pretty fucked up when they pull out his entrails.
What's his name? Bagu.
Bagu, yeah. But the problem is with it is like they're pulling it out, and he's obviously pulling a face. That was one of those moments where it's like it's not quite funny enough to work on a comedic level. It's not quite violent enough to kind of have that visceral impact. And it kind of sat in this kind of middle ground where it didn't work at either level.
What took me out of that was not the fact that they were pulling his intestines out. Was the fact that shouldn't rat tails be in the back of your head? Not on the side of your head.
You don't want it there.
Also, going away from the film, how dare you call me an odd sock wanker when you're wearing flamingos?
What's the matter with my fling bang? I mean, they...
I'm really sorry for bringing that up. Yeah. So halfway through that conversation, I noticed Liam has flamingos all over his socks.
Yeah, but they're on both socks.
I mean, they're pretty cool.
On both socks.
I think they're pretty cool.
I think they're pretty cool.
I mean, Wes or Rob, or however you know him.
In suitably cunty manner. This guy is wearing
will
odd
not
socks
wear
as always. He just won't wear...
matching socks.
Yeah, but I've said this argument so many times. Welcome to the sock podcast. The fact that...
I'm wearing... They're both the same goddamn socks.
If you get a hole in one sock... You're a wasteful cunt and you get rid of those socks.
No,
whereas I keep them both.
Animal.
And you're just a cunt.
Absolute animal.
I am, yeah.
To bring us back into Turbo Kid, so what you were saying about the violence, I love the innovation of the weapons.
Yes.
Right? So the breeze block
Sledgehammer
is brilliant. I mean, that is just making best of what you have.
Why do you think...
The thing I love about it is it's post-apocalyptic. There are no guns anymore.
Yeah.
Everyone's used their weapons. But apart from Ironside, obviously he's the boss. He's the one with the leftover whatever he's got. You know, his
looked
pistol.
like a Luger, but it wasn't a Luger.
I mean, it looked like a Lego gun. I'm not gonna lie. But you know, I love that. I mean, the gnome stick. If you're gonna make a weapon, he had a baseball bat, and it wasn't a whole baseball bat. I'd take that. But would you really sellotape a gnome to it?
I mean,
to make that a better weapon?
Look around. Look what you're looking at. I mean, logic dictates you sharpen that into some really big shiv, don't you?
I mean, I'd leave it as it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good weapon.
But, I mean, he found a gnome randomly and duct taped it on. But then he made himself a boomerang hammer.
Yeah.
And actually, speaking of boomerangs...
And he also has a fucking bitchin', like, machete.
Yeah,
like, nobody else seems to have anything else.
I think Dave might be the first person to use bitchin' without it being like...
Bitchin' machete.
Didn't somebody chuck, like, from, like, Kroll the Conqueror or whatever it was... Didn't somebody chuck a razor blade 3-pronged boomerang at him at one point?
Yeah, which he just literally to beat it off.
Yeah.
Because it weighed about 3 ounces because it was made of foil.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, like that's the thing with Michael Ironside, and we will obviously talk about Michael Ironside in a little bit, but the fact that he's the boss, and that was one of the things I took from this film, is that it felt like an adaptation of a video game that doesn't exist. This film felt so much like a video game, especially when they were like taping weapons together. You see that in video games all the time. And I'm almost like, I would love it to be the other way around. Like, I enjoyed this film, sure. But do I want to see a video game adaptation? Obviously, we'll get to the video game section at the end. But I would love a Wasteland version of this video game where you travel around on BMX. You level up your BMX, you can create your own weapons, and you charge up your Turbo Kid shit. Like, it's a perfect world to work as a video game. Sometimes I was almost like, it feels like they've just taken a video game concept.
It's more
and
video
put it
game
into
for
one.
a film.
Oh yeah, 100%. It feels so video gamey at times. It's ridiculous.
Taking masturbation...
Even to the fact that he has to power up his gun.
That's it.
Like
taking masturbation aside, how is that...
once.
How is that charging up? Like, how...
It doesn't make any
Where's
sense.
the power source
Well, it's the
coming
same
from?
thing in Demolition Man, isn't it? He's got a gun
the phaser
that
gun.
you can shoot it once, and you've got to wait for it to charge again,
Yeah.
because it's that powerful. And I guess that's what it is, isn't it? It's all about energy. We don't know how it's charging
It's
up.
80s energy. Well, that's the thing, and maybe you guys can answer this, because obviously I've only seen this film once. Who was Turbo Dude? The guy he took the suit from? And
So,
stuff?
they were, from what I can gather, they were like an army. It wasn't just one guy.
Yeah.
It was like an army of set to fight the robot uprising. and obviously the robots won, and this dude just crash landed, and his
he got buried, died. Yeah.
So it wasn't just one guy; it was just an army of. But in order to, I guess, propaganda, you get the comic book as well. So that's where I'm leaning towards that.
Because the comic book at the end says, "Be a hero, become a soldier."
Become a soldier. So I'm guessing they're the army, and they all had power gloves. But if he's able, I guess it was only one. Spoiler alert: Michael Ironside is a robot. If there's only one robot you have to take out, then obviously one Turbo Kid's going to. But if the robot uprising was all of the robots, then you would need more. And I'm guessing they lost.
So like but there's not many robots around.
No, that's the point.
Not now.
I go into the as well. I mean, I mentioned previously. You said we can get to it. We're going to get to it now. The robot graveyard is 4 or 5 mannequins. Maybe
max.
In
a couple of mannequins, bit of green steam. And,
they don't look particularly
and
threatening
some dinosaur kids bouncy toys.
Yeah, I mean that's some kind of like public park where they've just said, let's put some mannequins up there, and then we can tape a head to a mannequin.
And he definitely taped Apple's head to a Lovebot.
I mean, 100%. That robot was not built for war.
No.
He could have taped that to a man's mannequin. I mean, he just wanted to save the head. Well, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't.
And she was so.
You don't know.
Well.
You don't know what he's into.
Yeah. So she said as well, right? She said, "I'm built to eat. I'm built to smell. I'm built to do all these things." Is she built to fuck?
I mean, that's basically where we went to really quickly in this film. I mean. The fact that there are no women anywhere.
Well, again,
I mean,
it's like
I get the fact that he's young. He's not seen many people. You know, he's kept himself to himself. But the urges are there. I mean, you would have just said, "Can we get this going?" Yeah.
She has Lovebot. But like as sweet and adorable as she is. There's the whole thing, like, if this wasn't the middle of a dystopian future, if you, like, again, I'm bringing it back to the whole manic dream pixie girl thing. If you were just like, oh, do you want to watch the football and drink beers? She would have been like, yeah, that sounds fucking awesome. Do you want to maybe, like, afterwards she'd be like, yeah, that sounds
that's it. She's hinted that she's had previous best friends. I mean, there's a dude who basically she sat with him whilst he, I'm guessing, just become a skeleton. So at some point, she's had a best friend, air quotes again, that was in his 30s or 40s, who was just fucked her.
Yeah, I think that like that's the reason it works. Like if they really leaned into the fact that maybe she used to be a sex bot. Sorry,
what the fuck is a sex bot?
I don't know. Like a South African
is that like GoBots and Transformers?
God knows. But I think the fact that they keep it relatively sweet, and I'm so glad they did, because that is fundamentally the heart of this film, is the fact that Apple is so sweet. And the reason that I loved it so, like, yes, it's fun going back to the 80s and stuff, and it's fun kind of revisiting these tropes and this cultural iconography from the 80s, but it really is the kid and Apple that tie this film together. And that was the moment when I actually really started to kind of get on board with this movie. Like at the start I was like, I'm not sure about it, but as soon as they established their relationship, from then on I was totally on board for the rest of the film, even though the end with Michael Ironside is vaguely ridiculous. And the fact that like by time, like when Apple dies at the end, it should have an impact, but because they've kind of cried wolf 12 fucking times by that point.
Did she die?
Well, she's died so many times. Like they keep going to the well with that. Oh, she's dead. No, she's alive. No, she's dead. And when she does finally die, which should be sad, eventually I'm like, well, she had to go eventually. Can't cry wolf that many times. I kind of wish they hadn't, because I think that should have had a greater emotional impact. But I'm still sad to see it go. But they kind of relied upon that one too many times in my taste.
There is a moment when he turns around to Apple and he says, "Do you want to see something cool?" I thought, when was the last time that wasn't your penis?
Let me show you something.
Let me show you something cool. Yeah. And she's like, "Oh yeah, 9 times out of 10, it's your dick." But
I love that.
But that's the thing, like it's too sweet for all that, and like the fact that he has the slide view and the fact that he has the Nintendo Power.
You mean the I want to say kaleidoscope. No, what the fuck was that going on?
Kalikoscope?
ColecoVision.
ColecoVision,
yeah. But the fact that, like, yes, I guess they're both supposed to be grown-ups or young adults, whatever you want to call them, but it feels like a kids movie
Yeah.
in so many respects. I know they're like it's supposed to be 18, 19, but so much of their relationship feels like a kid's relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, they're kissing for the first time.
I loved-
and like I said, like my whole point about the fact that I think this film might have been actually better if there wasn't the violence and stuff is because I feel like it's at its best when it's actually just being sweet.
I love that cool guy moment where she's doing whatever she's doing with the gnome stick, and he's meant to be drawing her like Jack from Titanic,
Yeah.
and it's one step up from a stick figure. Like he's meant to be just there, just drawing her, and it's literally just.
I actually thought that drawing was really sweet. I thought it was so cute.
I mean, he was just basically missing the stick line,
And
and
just did like a cartoon
boobs.
version of it. Yeah, a little bit. But I actually thought that stuff was all great. And I wish there had been maybe more of an emphasis on those two's relationship rather than just fucking Apple constantly dying and constantly.
But it's
alive.
not that type of film, though, is it? They're not trying to do a love story.
Well, they have that in there, but again, a big
It's
part
not.
of it is they're trying
it's
to.
a bit like Aliens, isn't it? With the Hicks and Ripley. You know,
Yeah.
it's always the connotation. It's there. It's in the background, but it's not part of the story. So
No.
they don't go into it.
Yeah.
and I kind of think that's what that is.
yeah, because this is basically like falling in love with your fleshlight, isn't it? It's
Basically.
yeah. It's,
Yeah, but your Fleshlight's got like the best personality. You know, Fleshlight's
loved-
very pretty, much better.
I
attitude.
loved her intense look, and if they're her real eyes, the real eye color, not contacts. Fuck me, she is intense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
She
like,
could stare through your soul and see your childhood.
she's got great hair as well.
Yeah.
Great. It always reminds me of, do you know Lightning from Final Fantasy 13 by chance? Is that going to go over everyone's heads?
Nope.
No. Final Fantasy 13, like Lightning is the lead character in that game, but they actually took Lightning and I think it was Gucci. They actually used the character, so like a CG video game created character, as a model for Gucci, and it was like in London, like in the windows and stuff. So it was like she was like the core model for a number of years, and she had that same kind of like pink, long, wavy hair kind of thing. It always reminded me of her.
I think we can all agree, best character in this entire film
Oh,
is
100%.
It is Apple, but again, the film does work because Monroe Chambers
Yeah.
is perfectly.
He is
charming.
so sweet and innocent. Do you know the whole thing? He's got his underground layer where he's got his weird, everything from the 80s, basically. His Walkman and stuff like that.
yeah.
What I wanted to ask, I don't even know when she managed to slip that tracer on him, that tracker.
She slaps on him straight away.
She did.
As
I
soon
didn't
as she
see
meets
Okay,
him,
I missed that part.
she slaps it on his
Okay,
arm.
so I missed that
Yeah.
part. So she slapped that tracker on him. He knocks himself out in there. She brings him to life. She makes him cereal. Now, in post-apocalyptic 1997,
It's not milk.
I don't know where cereal's
not milk.
I don't know where cereal's coming from. But thank you.
Yeah.
Where's the milk coming from?
Yeah, especially in a world where you've got to kill people to create water.
Yeah.
The fact that he's
that's the
just
point,
like
isn't it?
drinking milk with his fucking 80 cereal.
We
nonsense.
all assume you put milk on cereal.
Yeah.
But she's
Unless
there.
you're Friday.
Oh yeah. Let's put some more on
The
this
film
shit.
Friday, he puts water on his...
Okay.
You all know because they've run out of milk and he throws away the cereal.
Well,
That's
I'd assume that
although that is
they're
insane.
pouring.
You don't put water on cereal.
I would assume they're pouring a human liquid
Yeah.
onto the cereal.
But-
It's
so-
not water.
so
it is.
yeah.
It is.
Semen?
No, it's not semen.
You said human milk.
you
That
said
is
human.
milk
I didn't
colour.
say human
no,
milk.
surely you
I
go
said
with breast
human
milk.
liquid.
Oh, sorry.
Have you not watched the film?
Surely go with breast milk. The fact that humans provide milk
I just
naturally.
I picture
No,
somebody
it's
spunking
not
over some
milk
milk.
at all.
Oh, of course.
It's not milk at
Why
all.
would you go to spunk?
He went.
And why wouldn't you go to milk? Milk is readily available via women.
Where's the cows?
Yeah,
Yeah, but
You
there's
don't
no
need cows.
There
There
are
are
no
no
women in this
women.
film.
Yeah, but I'm sure women still exist.
Jesus Christ.
Well, even if they don't, like, I would
Right,
assume straight to spunk.
right. Stop.
I
Take a-
would.
time out.
I would assume.
It's definitely not spunk. That's what I'm saying.
No one mentioned spunk other than you. That's just.
Dude, he said spunk like 17 times.
I would assume what she put on the cereal was that cloudy ass water that she got off. Not Baku. That's a place. Baru was it? Was the guy?
No, I want to say Bagu.
Anyway.
Bagu.
Bagu. So that weird.
You think it's cloudy water
I
rather
think
than
it's
milk?
Yeah,
Dude,
because
it's milk.
You did not see her pour milk on it. She didn't go to the fridge and get a big thing of milk out, did she? It was just there. So she just poured whatever liquid she had on the cereals.
Yeah, you just fucking killed me.
Basically,
there's no reason-
you want a load of women to be in a milking cattle shed. You want a load of men to be wanked off. I would just say it's probably dirty water.
And I'm sorry, right? As much as I really don't want a load of men to be wanked off, Liam, there's no fucking women in this film.
Okay,
except
well,
for,
there's no
except for Rufio, who has breast guards. That fucking
So
weird...
you can't milk her.
No, you can't milk her.
No, there's definitely women because he's not like freaked
Where?
out by the fact. Yeah, I know they're
The
not.
only
They're
other
not
woman-
there. Dude, there's like 8 people, like you said.
The only other woman is his mother.
They go to like the fucking robot graveyard and there's 3 robots. He would have been freaked the fuck out by Apple if there were no women in this
post-apocalyptic,
world.
innit?
There are
At the end of
clearly
the
women
day-
in this world, despite the fact that you don't see them on screen.
the only other
and we
woman-
don't even take into account that there might be fucking cows.
The only other
Needless
woman-
to say, it's not Spunk.
The only other woman is his mother, right? And she got hit like a fucking golf ball, apparently.
I think post-apocalyptic, you got to accept the fact that the women are going first because
There's no suggestion in this film, I think that. Like,
100%. They're getting men are absolutely fucking terrible. So they're gonna rape, they're gonna murder.
Yeah,
they're
but
gonna,
like
they're
nobody
gonna take
wants
them
to
away.
rape to the point that there's no women because eventually it's prison rules
Do you
and
not-
they're only raping.
do you
other
not know
dudes.
men? This
Yeah,
is
I
how
know,
it
I
works.
know.
Sorry.
Now there's no women.
If you're still listening to this episode...
Which you shouldn't be, by the
No,
way.
we
Shame
are
on you.
so sorry. Like,
Yeah.
this is Liam's Christmas choice.
No, yeah, of course it is, of course it is. Okay, well, let's get to Michael Ironside, right? Michael Ironside, who obviously makes up most of the
He's
budget of
great
this
in
film.
this film, by the way.
He is fun in this film. However, I have some major issues with the end of this film. The fact that he's suddenly a robot, okay, I can deal with
Did
that.
you see that coming? Because I didn't see that.
I didn't
But
see that coming, admittedly.
I know you're going to go with the fact that you didn't like that. I kind of like that twist.
I've
no.
seen it 3 times and I didn't remember it
each
coming.
time. Yeah.
I didn't mind the fact that he was a robot, whatever. But they have this big deal, like they make him a robot at the end. You think, oh, he's going to do something cool. And he even kind of proclaims, oh, would you like to see what I do? What does he do? He makes people slightly immobile?
He creates a ball in front of him that seems to blow wind on people.
He's like a Christmas tree.
Yeah.
He basically just makes light,
He
makes
is
sound.
the poniest robot. No wonder there's no fucking robots left. They're all shite.
Yeah, and the fact that she...
So there's no robots left. There's no women's left. There's just fucking dudes. What is
in
this?
regards to all these robots as well,
So many inconsistencies.
Sounds like going to the football.
yeah,
I know.
she's a friendship model. He is a
He's
business.
being very cute about it.
He's a business model.
No, he's a business model. So
Yeah.
he's all about
Yeah.
sorting out the company, everything.
The business.
I love the fact that in your mind, she's a friendship model, so she's definitely up for sex. I mean, we talked about this.
Well, again, have you ever met dudes? It's like, as soon as a girl's like, oh, hey, how's it going? Oh, she wants to fuck.
When we talked about it, he didn't say a friendship model. I can't remember exactly what you said. She was like
You're making this shit up.
No,
right
no.
now.
You made it out like, yeah, she's just a robot hooker. That's basically how you said it. She's I can't remember what you said.
Companion.
She's a companion
Well,
model.
now the fact I remember that doesn't make you right. Right, because you're making this shit up. But she's basically, like I've already said,
I think they're both
Just-
the same.
Just because she's a female doesn't make her
Oh,
instantly
you're in a
sex.
post-apocalyptic
Oh, Jesus
future. You have a female robot that says yes to anything. That dude that fucking passed away in the graveyard and became a skeleton. There's no way he didn't go suck it for a while.
Well, regardless of that, the fact is,
This is becoming such a wrong episode. We might have to just not fucking release this.
no, we're absolutely released it. Apple, like, she was clearly created by a dude. There's that's
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
Even if you take away the sexual, let's just remove the sexual element from it. The fact that she's like the perfect girlfriend. She's just yes to everything.
Yeah.
Like, oh, everything you say is a fucking awesome idea. It's everything a guy wants to hear. Especially for 17. It's like, oh, that sounds fucking awesome. Everything sounds like a great idea. Again, we'll remove the sex, but that's where it's going. But yeah, she's like you say, whether you say a friendship model, companionship model, it all means the same thing, sadly.
Yeah.
But like you said, the fact that they don't lean too hard into that makes this fundamentally a surprisingly sweet film.
Yeah,
despite
you're
the fact
right
that
there.
you have
they don't go into that.
No.
That's
Yeah,
just
like-
our dirty minds going into
that is very much us. And despite all the violence in this film, that's what I come away from. I'm like, it's a surprisingly sweet.
It is sweet. It's lovely.
film.
Like Monroe Chambers has that. Monroe Chambers, who plays Turbo Kid, has that just the childlike innocence about him. Like he is just so. To be fair, he's lovable. He is just. He's trying to survive. He watched his mother get hit like a fucking golf ball.
And that comes into the point I was going to make was Zeus makes a fundamental. It's always that thing, isn't it? You let the child go, the child's always going to come back
Yeah.
for revenge.
Yeah.
Whereas I like the fact that he has no idea up until right at the end that Zeus is the guy who killed his parents.
Yeah.
So,
But does he still
yeah,
know
but
Zeus is the guy that killed his parents?
No,
He does at the end.
He figures it out at the end. It's
Yeah.
that last battle.
yeah. When you get the
He
speech
knows.
and they
But that's the thing I like about it. It's not a movie.
It's
based
not about
around,
revenge.
Yeah. It's not about revenge.
He's just trying to do the right thing.
He's
That's
just
it.
doing the right thing. He's just trying to survive.
Just wants to be, as he called
He's
it,
just-
a superhero.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
he's such a child.
Yeah.
He wants to be a nice
Yeah,
guy.
he falls into like the revenge thing. Only
It
kind of
falls
happens
into it,
by
exactly.
coincidence at the end.
Exactly, and I think that's a good thing because
Yeah, me too.
If he'd done that from the beginning, it would have just been, it's every other trope you've ever seen, isn't it? It's just, boy sees parents killed, boy tries to revenge his parents. No, he's not doing that. All he wants to do is survive. He doesn't want to talk to other people.
He wants to be the right. He wants to just do the right. He wants to be the one person in the world doing the right
That's the
thing.
thing. Most of the time, he doesn't even want to be with other people. He wants to be in his little lair underground with his 80
I think
toys.
once he finds the suit-
He's just a scavenger. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to hunt.
No,
He's
I think
just
once he finds the suit, I think he does kind of
Yeah.
want to lean into the whole superhero ethos thing of like, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to try and do the right thing.
Speaking of the superhero and doing the right thing and stuff like that, is Frederick the arm wrestler pointless?
I think so, because at one point I was like, are they trying to kind of have it? It's like, oh, he wants to be like Frederick the arm wrestler, but that doesn't really happen. I actually think one of my issues with this film is outside of like the core cast of Michael Ironside, Monroe Chambers, and Lawrence LaBouffe is the fact that the drop off is pretty major.
Yeah,
and Aaron
it
Jeffrey,
really
who plays
is.
Frederick, I don't think he's particularly good. And I know all three of the directors play a part in this film. Like Francois Samar plays the father, Anouk Whistle plays the mother, and Jan Carl Whistle plays the bald guard guy.
The mother is budget Anna Kendrick, mind, isn't she?
But super budget Anna
Yeah.
Kendrick. Super budget.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I love Anna Kendrick. She is mega budget Anna Kendrick, just to be abundantly clear. And like the rest of the cast, it's fine. Oh, sorry, I'm talking about something that's happening in my job. The rest of the cast is just perfectly fine. And that is the issue, is that a lot of this film is just serviceable. And it does fall back on the fact that it is charming and it is going, oh, look, do you remember these things from the 80s?
Yeah.
But
there's
like I said, the reason,
elements.
yeah, the
But
reason
there's
it works.
lots of bits in between that just
But like I said, the
show
reason
the budget, basically.
for me that it keeps going is unlike so many movies, and I know it's not so prevalent now because we've moved on to kind of like homaging the 90s now, but you know, for a decade or so we were doing the 80s, is the fact that they got it all wrong. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, like the Expendables and stuff like that, where, so if you take like, if you're doing an homage to 80s, you go for the Expendables thing and it's all winky and noddy, and you're missing the point of 80s cinema. And then my other issue with a lot of these films that try and do the, oh, so bad it's good, the only reason those films work, the so bad they're good ones, is that they didn't know that they were bad.
Yeah.
Again, there's that element of innocence. They thought they were making a great film, but it's shit.
retrospective.
And and that's why it's fun, because it's terrible. As soon as you try and make a terrible film a la fucking, I don't know, Sharknado or something, it doesn't work because they're just shit.
Yeah.
Like, there's no charm to it. It's just a bad film. And this film, I don't think it's particularly bad, but the one thing it does get right is the fact that it's like, no, we're a true homage to the 80s, and we're sticking to those tropes, and we're not going to wink, we're not going to smile, we're going to play it straight down Main Street. And most films nowadays, when they're looking back at films of that ilk, don't do that, and I think that's fundamental.
And I know you two haven't. Sorry, Dave. I know you two haven't seen Solar Babies, and I've mentioned it a couple of times.
Fucking love Solar Babies.
yeah.
We're going to have to do Solar Babies.
You have to watch Solar
next.
Babies, but like it follows that kind of that kind of ilk in regards to it. All feels like, if I would have watched this film without knowing it was filmed in 2015, it would feel 80s as fuck to me. Like, that's how it feels to me. Like, how did I not watch this film when I grew up? Like, and
That's a good point.
That is actually why. That's not one of the main reasons, but why I really enjoyed this film. As an 80s fan, as a kid from the 80s, early 90s, this film feels right at home with any of those other films that I've said I've watched. Again, Solar Babies for the third time, where you two have turned around and gone, "What the fuck is that?" Like, and they're the films that I've watched that I've loved, and people watch this film and go, "What the fuck is? What are you doing?"
That's the
It's
thing.
of a time, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, that's
You
the
watch
thing
it
with
when you're
this.
younger.
yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with this film, is that there are one or two signs, but for the most part, the genius of it is that it actually feels like an 80s film.
Yes.
Brings up
Yeah.
nostalgia.
That's why-
doesn't it?
yeah.
That's what you love about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it doesn't kind of go overboard with nostalgia. It doesn't go, oh, we're watching this along with you.
Yeah.
Like, again, it's that knowing thing. It's like, no, we are going to make an 80s movie, but we're just making it in 2015.
Yeah.
But in the same style. And like you said, like if I didn't know this was made in 2015, I honestly be like, I don't know when this was made.
Yeah, exactly. And that is absolutely spot on. And that is why, to be fair, I really enjoyed this film. So,
before we end it, can I just say, I'd like to bring up that last fight. That last scene.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I think we skipped past it quite a lot. We've talked about the film as a whole and everything. I would say, how many people need to explode before you run away? There were like
100%.
There were about
100%.
10, 15 guys who watched one at a time explode because the guy just pointed his fist at them.
Yeah, but that's
they exploded. They ran away. I'd have been fucking gone
There was that-
long time
there
ago.
was that dude with the stop sign shield
Yeah.
who literally, mate, put that shield down and walk away.
Yeah.
Because
He was
done-
the last one.
You've done nothing. You've watched your friends basically become atoms.
This is the point. He was the last one.
Yeah.
Everyone else went boom, boom, boom.
And they
I'd be
literally ran into... But
Yeah.
again,
I'd be
that
going
brings it
a
back
long
to
time
that
for that.
point of why I think this works, is because that's what happened in 80s films.
Yeah, yeah,
If you go and watch
I get that.
Commando, you have these people just running the fuck into bullets
I would
over
say,
and over again.
I would say the best thing I've ever seen. Like, this film isn't the best film I've ever seen. I
I was going to say, settle down, buddy.
it's pretty budget and it's pretty. It is what it is.
Yeah.
You enjoy
It's
it for what
fun,
it is.
yeah, yeah.
But the tower of people. I mean, the
What did you call it? The human totem pole.
human totem pole of people was the funniest thing I've seen in a long.
Do you know what?
Long
And
time.
What I love, like that was funny, but it was the fact that you had, I think they call him Skeletor in this, or Skeletron, Skeletron, the henchman of Michael Ironside. This dude apparently cannot be defeated. No. He can dodge your weird power glove that nobody else can dodge. He has unlimited supply of
BMX.
No, the gears. Fighting,
the weird.
I love how you took it serious. Like, no, he doesn't have an unlimited supply of BMX.
No. He has an unlimited supply of that, whatever he's shooting out of his hand, blades out of his hand. But he gets taken down by a fucking parasol.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I mean, yeah, this entire film is fucking insane. But the logistics of opening a parasol inside somebody, like, what is that parasol made of that you're able to fully erect it?
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, I think that it probably makes sense.
It's like Commando, isn't it? You know,
it makes sense to my notes
stupid
now.
shit you see. You know?
Is that you're so on board with the tone of this movie by the end that when he kills him with a parasol and he opens him up and he explodes, it doesn't make any sense. But
like,
by then,
that's
I was
fine.
yeah, exactly. I was like, yeah, I'm willing to go with this, 100%.
Right. Anyway, we've been talking.
Wait,
about this
before we
for a
move
minute
on,
now.
I've got to ask one
I
more.
wanted to ask if we got any more.
Just one last thing.
Yeah.
I was like, does anyone anymore? Because I love the fact they brought it up in this film. Do kids give backies anymore?
Nope.
They don't, do they? I never see kids giving backies on bugs with the smokes and shit.
When they gave him the backy spoke things,
Yeah.
scrun,
The pegs.
the pegs, I literally turned around to us and went, what the fuck are they?
Oh, no, like that was
I
a
had
big thing
no
when I was
idea.
younger.
And went,
Why would you
yeah,
give
we
backies?
were like, I don't know. And then she tried to get on the back of the bike and Wes went, back spokes.
Why
That's what they
would
are.
you give somebody, like, you turn around to a guy and you go, right, I'm going to give you water, and on tick, I'm
He's
going to
got
give
his
you...
bike.
Yeah.
He's a bike guy.
on tick, I'm going to
Sounds
give
like
you...
a fucking drug dealer.
But it is! He did see...
God, got some spokes on tick, bro. Got
Yeah,
some...
but he gave him pegs on tick.
Yeah, he
Right,
did.
anyway, let's move on.
I know.
Oh, okay.
One more.
Go on.
Right.
Move on!
I have said all the way through this there are sexual connotations constantly.
Yeah.
And when the big explosion went off and then the massive water eruption comes up and they're all really happy about it, I'm telling you, that's just a euphemism for an ejaculation.
Yeah, that was... Also...
we weren't clear enough already
Yeah,
with all
I
that
love the
filthy
fact... I love the fact that they
That's
just,
how I saw it, I'm sorry.
they happen to
Basically, she died, he
be...
ejaculated.
Yeah, I love the fact they happen to be in the right place, right, for the water source. As they called it.
yeah.
Like,
I'm Ron Burgundy?
yeah, like they were in the right place for the water source. And apparently this turbo explosion device, whatever he called it, he shot it with his turbo glove that is tearing people apart. And he was, what, maybe 10 millimeters from this fucking thing?
Yeah, and he's absolutely fine. I mean, it looked like a nuclear explosion went off.
Yeah.
And he was just okay.
like, I'm fine.
Like, I'll walk it off.
Yeah,
It'll be
right.
fine.
Do we have anything else before we move on?
No. Let's move on.
All right, favourite scenes. Dave, do you have a favourite scene? Liam, do you have a favourite scene?
Sorry, he's too busy smoking. Yeah. Apologies.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier the fact it's the playground scene with Kid and Apple. That was the scene in the movie where I was truly on board. And as I said, I've mentioned the fact that I thought maybe this might have been a better film if they had kind of toned down the violence and played it to the fact that it's sweet. That's when it felt like an Amblin 80s movie the most. And that's when it kind of, at the start at least, I was like, well, this is just like a fucking love letter to the 80s or to 80s movies. But it's the first time that I felt like its own movie. Yeah. And as I said, my favourite thing looking back at it are the kid and Apple and their relationship. So yeah, that's my favourite scene.
I know I take the piss out of Liam talking a lot compared to what I do. Like, Liam just fucking goes and goes and goes, and then I gotta say a 30-second
It's all good stuff though. It's all good.
But I agree with Liam. That's my favourite scene. That whole thing where they're talking to stars, the whole fact that the stars are somebody who's died and he's looking down on them. I think it's beautiful. I do think it's lovely.
And it's strange that for a film with so much violence and so much kind of like, ridiculous choreography and stuff, that would be the best scene. But I think that is what ultimately makes it a movie.
But randomly, from a robot, it brings the humanity to the robot. It brings the humanity to the film, and I think it's lovely.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned the fact that this was initially a kind of a trailer, almost like a proof of concept kind of thing. This could have just been an extended version of that, where it's like, oh look, stuff you remember. Oh look, nods to movies you remember. It doesn't work over 90 minutes if that's all you're doing. You do need the heartbeat of the movie, and you do need that relationship to fundamentally make it work as a 90-minute movie. And I think that's where it really starts, and that's why, as silly as it is, you do care about these characters by the end. Or certainly I did. And like I said, there is the issue that they go to the well one too many times with Apple constantly dying, coming back. But when she did die at the end, I was a little bit sad because I did want them to survive. I did want them to stay together. And it all fundamentally comes back to that initial scene. Yeah. But are you done smoking?
Dave, do you have a favourite scene?
Yeah, I think I'd probably go with the flaming, whirling arm wrestling scene.
Okay, that's good.
I think I like that. I think it was pretty cool. It was pretty. When he turns around to him and says, "Do you mind if I light a smoke?" He's like, "Oh, we're not savages," He's like, he's like, "Oh, we're all humans here," and it's pretty cool. He's pretty shit, but pretty cool at the same time.
And when he says, "When I ask for flames, I want flames!"
Exactly. It's Ironside who's best.
Ironside is very good. I mean, he really is just playing Ironside to the max.
But let's face it, you picked the best ones. But yeah, I like that.
I think we did.
Should we go loves and hates?
Yeah, loves and hates.
Liam, you go first.
I mean, unsurprisingly, number 1, Apple. Number 2, the kids. Number 3, the most important one, arguably, is the fact that eventually they got the tone right. As I've mentioned it a couple of times here, the reason I think this film works is because it tries to recreate an 80s movie rather than going, oh, look, do you remember 80s movies? It's like, no, we're making an 80s movie. It just happens to be in 2015. I think that's the magic. And I almost wish I'd watched it not knowing it was made in 2015.
Yeah,
and I could have, if you'd asked me afterwards...
Got nostalgia with it straight off.
Yeah, it's hard to guess now, of course, because I knew when it was made when I watched it.
Yeah.
But if I had just watched it and you had said don't check when it was made, I think I might have actually struggled. So I think that would be interesting.
So for me, Apple. I think Apple is like probably going to be all of ours because Apple.
So good.
Apple brings this just.
Dave's just pointing me to his notes. Number 1, Apple.
I agree. Apple. We all agree. Apple is the one.
Spoiler alert, by the way. Dave's number 1 is Apple. Yeah.
She's fucking great in this film.
Oh, she's lovely.
Number 2 is the human totem pole, as they've called it. Yeah. I think that's great. Like just the eccentricity of the violence in this. It's. Like, we're going to make it violent, so we're going to make it fucking
overly
obscenely violent.
Well, I actually think, because I mentioned the fact that with the violence, I had an issue with the tone, that sometimes it was taking it quite seriously, and, sometimes it was like a halfway house. At least with that scene in particular, it was like, all right, this is just ludicrous.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it would have been better if it leaned a bit more into that and gone full on, all right, this is just silly.
Yeah. One or other, isn't it?
Yeah.
You either take it out or you make it.
Yeah, and that scene really was fucking ridiculous, but it's definitely memorable.
Yeah. My third one is the childlike innocence of Monroe Chambers as Turbo Kid. Like, from a world that should have ruined him, he saw his parents die, he saw... Fucking hell, Liam's blowing smoke donuts and it's just totally taking me out.
like fucking Gandalf.
Yeah. No, so Monroe Chambers in this is childlike innocence. I think he does really well, and the dude should be doing more, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's great. Like I said, like I think the discrepancy between the kind of core 3 actors and the rest of the cast is almost distracting. I think they're that much better than the rest of the cast. But I would prefer a film where at least 3 of them are brilliant. And if you're going to pick 3 people to be brilliant, you want it to be the core 3, and they all are fantastic.
Dave?
Apple.
What a surprise! Absolute first one is Apple. I mean,
she's got the gnome stick and everything. She says.
Yeah, but I love her outlook to everything. Right? It's such a disastrous, horrific scene of everything. Everyone is there to murder and kill and everything, and she is just the epitome of optimism. She loves everything. Everything is brilliant, and
I love how she's so happy for everything.
That's the point.
I know she's a robot, but that's the thing that's often missing from these dystopian films is that they can become like quite depressing affairs.
Yeah.
But like you introduce her like 20 minutes in or whatever, and she's so optimistic. And
that's the thing
that
is
she's a robot,
her smile is infectious.
She just everything is brilliant, and it kind of breaks the movie up for me. It's quite a grim movie in reality. Yeah, everything's pretty shit, but
especially if you think what he's putting on his fucking cereal. Jesus. She's
a sex bot. She's gonna love it.
I don't want to buy into the whole sex bot thing because I come in a much more kind of wholesome thing because I just wholeheartedly No, I totally fell in love with her in like the sweetest possible way.
Yeah.
I know in the back of my head it's probably the whole companion bot, whatever you want to call it. But I didn't watch it that way because I just didn't want to because she's such a lovely character.
But anyway,
number 2.
Other loves. I loved the 400 gallons of blood for their death. Everyone who died literally pumped out 400 people's worth of blood.
Which is ironic considering how much you could get of water from these people.
But I loved the gore, the stupid. No one believes that's what's happening, but they went for it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I
absolutely went for it.
I mentioned
B-movie, absolutely.
It makes you feel like Evil Dead.
Yeah.
Evil Dead just used buckets and buckets of blood, and that was what...
Well, that's weird that you said that, because when I was talking about like the fact that it homages like a whole bunch of movies...
You never mentioned Evil Dead.
Well, I didn't think the Evil Dead when I thought of that. What I was thinking of was like classic like 70s and 80s like kung fu movies.
Yeah.
I was thinking of like Japanese cinema when they cut their arm off and you get the big spurt and stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I think they were actually going for rather than a horror kind of nod, to be honest.
So. And my last one was definitely the human totem pole.
Of course.
I mean, having 4 people sat on top of one guy's head was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
It's just because it's ridiculous. He put a spade in a guy and managed to rip his entire body,
flick him up,
in half.
And for you listeners, you've never heard Wes or Rob, however you know him, laugh like a little girl, and I will guarantee you he laughed like a little girl when all of those people landed on top of him.
So you're saying I'm a sadist?
A little bit.
Well, a little bit, yeah. Right, sure. Let's go into hates.
Number 1, I've got the fact that it does occasionally feel like a fan-made film. Like I can't escape that. The fact that it feels like a university film with a budget. The fact that it does lean a little bit too much into the fan-made kind of elements. But as I said, it overcomes that eventually. But it does have its moments. Yeah. Number 2, Ironside's totally lame power. Ironside, obviously, I mean Zeus. It's fucking pony. I really thought he was going to do something cool at the end. It's just like it was just so fucking lame. And I'm not saying it's a massive issue, but I'm not sure if the violence was required. As I said, I think there's another version of this film where they lean more into this being like a bit of a family film, more of an Amblin style film. I think it could have worked that way as well. But, but then I would have missed out.
I think you're right.
But then we would have missed out on the totem pole.
Yeah.
So, swings and roundabouts.
I mean, I don't agree with the violence because you're a prude. But
clearly so. Clearly so.
I mean, I didn't like the weird... like randomly picking up the most stupid things. The helmet that Zeus had, the fact that it was just... He kept...
That was off... That was totally off a water feature.
Yeah.
He literally just pinched that off something.
Yeah. Frederick the arm wrestler just seemed absolutely pointless. He was there to just spit weird, like, I don't know, fucking haikus at Turbo Kid. And
I feel like they should have had more of a relationship, but it just never quite been.
And randomly, again, Frederick the arm wrestler with his weird cycle sidecar thing just was the oddest thing in the world.
Kind of weird. It was, again, it feels like a slight nod to maybe Mad Max 2, where you get a couple of the vehicles like that. But yeah, I'm not sure if it really landed, to be honest.
The whole little razor flick thing. That was Mad Max 2, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, all I could think of was like, obviously when people think of Mad Max 2, they immediately think of like the cool cars and the trucks and stuff. But there was also
the kid with the boomerang.
There was also the dude who had like the fucking propeller car and stuff like that, which was all pretty pony. So maybe it was a nod to that. I don't know, but it was still pretty lame.
Yeah.
How about you, dude?
I would say my hate, the budget constraints. I just think they could have made this not much better. I think that the story is what it is. It's a budget story. You're never gonna, no matter how much money you throw at it, you're not gonna make it much better.
Like, do you want the $200 million version of fucking Turbo Kid? I'm not sure.
But I think it kind of comes into my second one. There's some ropey acting in this. I think a little bit more money, you could have had some slightly better side actors on here that 100%. could have made it a little bit more. Because, like you said, there's 3 or 4 actors who are brilliant.
Yeah, they're cool. Yeah,
but without them, everyone else is pretty shit. They're guys off the streets.
100%.
Fuck, yeah.
Yeah, there's no two ways about it. And I'm not one for like bad. Like, there's a difference between like say Ironside, where he's chewing the scenery kind of thing, and other people kind of playing up to the kind of film they're in. But then there's also people who are just
wandering around and they look lost and like,
something's gonna happen.
Literally, they would just pay $20 as it were. Just come in, just have some fun. And then, but Michael Ironside was like, you know what, I'm going to... Nicolas Cage-ish in regards to, you're paying me, I'm going to just enjoy what I'm doing. And Michael, he fucking loved
the thing
what
is,
he was
like,
doing.
even if Michael Ironside's phoning it in, he's still Michael Ironside. He's still fundamentally a good actor.
Yeah. That dude is intense.
Whereas a lot of the other people on this film,
and apparently.
They're just not very good actors. Yeah. And I never buy into this idea of having like bad actors. Like, well, it's kind of fun. No.
Yeah.
I prefer to have good actors kind of play up to the role, and you don't have that here. So outside of the top 3, the drop off is pretty.
I'll be honest with you. I couldn't think of a third hate. I'm not saying this is a brilliant film, but I just couldn't think of anything I hated. What was the third one you said? Because I agreed with you.
The violence being a little bit like I made the argument that. I don't have an issue with the violence, but I think it could have arguably been a better film if it was a PG.
Like a
BMX band.
I agree with this. Yeah. I love the violence. I mean, the films I watch, that's what I want to see. I want to see gratuitous violence. I want to see action. They're the films I love to watch. But I'll be honest with you, in this film, I think it could have been a much different film if they'd taken that out of it, like you said, and made it a bit more of a...
I'm thinking almost like the Wizard and stuff like that.
But I wonder if
this could be 2 completely different films. Go much harder or go much softer.
Yeah.
But I wonder.
Do you know what I mean?
I wonder if that goes back to the budget because of the budget.
They were always going to go that. The trailer, which was made with absolutely no money, was all about the blood, the guts.
And that's what I mean. So I wonder if with the budget, because you can just like the budget. It doesn't take much, I would assume, to do blood spurting and things like that. So I wonder if because the budget was so minimal that you were able to just do buckets and buckets of blood. If they had more of a budget, they could have gone down a more, I guess, senile route not senile, serene route. So thank you, Liam. In regards to that side of it, but I guess...
Yeah, well, like I said, sometimes I thought the overt violence was used as a way to kind of obscure the fact that the choreography wasn't fantastic. It's like, oh, well, we've got this, and it's, oh, look, this is fun. And it is, and like I said, it's not like, I don't think it ruins the movie by any stretch. But at the same time, I think this could have potentially been a better film if they'd gone the PG route, to say. The Goonies kind of route. Yeah. That's what I was thinking anyway.
Right, anyway, should we move on to facts?
Yes, this is your... I haven't got anything written down, so
usually when we have Dave on. Dave, have you got any?
Yeah, I got loads.
Yeah, alright, I'll move on then, because Dave just...
He said, he's recording, like, he just wanders off, just screaming from the fucking kitchen. Unbelievable. So unprofessional.
Right, so in the opening scene, Thunder in Your Heart by John Farnham is playing while riding his BMX. This is also from the 1986 movie Rad. Have you ever seen Rad?
I have, yeah.
So that's
BMX
with Josh Brolin.
Yeah.
The character Apple also uses the word rad when they meet. The movie was filmed in Quebec, Canada, and is a co-production between New Zealand and Canada. Dave already mentioned that because it's random, New Zealand and Canada. In the scene where the kid and Apple spend the night in the video store, the posters for the short films that RKSS made are seen on the VHS covers. Jean-Philippe Bernier is credited as both composer and director of photography, and an unusual and rare combination. A critic described the film as Mad Max on BMX bikes. We've already mentioned Mad Max connotation.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is, yeah.
Yep. The Turbo Rider glove is based on the Nintendo Entertainment, the Power Glove. You've already said that, yeah. One of the patches on Bagoo's leather coat is from the Arctic Winter Games. The Arctic Winter Games is the international biannual celebration of circumpolar sports and indigenous culture. I mean, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel for these.
What, do you want to move on to Legacy? Or
no, I know Liam's got...
I got some facts.
But can I just do two more? The electronics on the bomb is an Arduino Uno connected to a battery pack and a breadboard with a 7-segment displays counting down.
Awesome. Well, I'm all for things being imaginative.
My last one before Dave can do his facts. The heart readout... Oh, sorry, I've already said that. It's Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, so there were 14 company logos at the start of the film.
Oh, that was awesome. It just kept fucking going.
So,
It was unbelievable.
It just took a lot of companies to get this made.
Yeah, it really did.
And I'm so glad they did, though.
For such a low budget, I think they took what they could get from wherever they could get it.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm sure you're just hearing the facts here, but the fact that you're reading it from a notebook, written in hand, just makes it more dramatic.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
It feels like you're about to read me a story.
To be fair, man, before you move on, take the budget aside. When you watched this film, did it feel $67,000?
No, it did not feel budget. Not that budget. I mean,
Yeah, it did.
really?
Right,
It felt cheap
right,
to me.
Liam, sit back. Dave.
I remember.
I think they did a good job.
Can I do one thing?
Yeah.
We went to see what those? Oh, fucking! I can't remember what they're called now. The comedy troupe.
Super Troopers.
No, you're on about Impractical Jokers.
Impractical Jokers.
Yeah.
So the Impractical Jokers, they tried to make the one guy tried to make a film, and his dad said, "I'll give you $30,000." Right? He said, "You can either buy a new car, or you can make a film." Right? And it looked.
So I assume he didn't buy the car.
No, he made a film.
Yeah.
Right? And if I made something on my on my phone now, right, and followed you round,
It looked better.
it looked fucking horrific, and that was $30,000. And that was him. Yeah, but that was him and his mates.
Yeah, but that's the thing.
Yeah, but this is a film with Michael Ironside in it.
No, and that is the thing. Like, it's all on a scale. Like, don't get me wrong. They've done a really good job for £60,000.
Yeah.
I'm like you said. Any criticism, it all comes with a caveat kind of thing. Nothing about this I think is bad, and I think for £60,000 they've done a really good job of putting that up on the screen. I still think it looks like a slightly budget film. Like,
I don't think this is the best looking film I've ever seen.
No.
But I did not watch that film and think this is on someone's iPhone.
No.
This is a proper filmed film.
But if I watched this, because I didn't know, and I will admit, I didn't go into this podcast, this episode, even when we watched it, I didn't know the budget until you turned around to me and
I would
told me the
assume
budget.
this was like $200-300 grand. You know,
someone
has got like.
I was going
proper...
million. I saw a film, and you two would not have viewed this. It's called Soul Searcher.
I thought he was going to say fucking Solar Baby again. I swear to God, I thought he was going to say Solar Baby. No. I was like, if he said Solar Baby one more fucking time.
It's a British film about a guy that becomes a reaper that has
It's about the making of a film called Solar Baby.
But that was £1 million. And it looks... Like you said, shot on a fucking camcorder.
That's the thing,
compared to this for $67,000.
Like visually, you could record something on your iPhone or on your Samsung.
By the way, we're all yelling at each other. Nobody's listening to this episode by now.
It doesn't matter. It's fine. But that's the thing. You can record things on, and there's lots of films where you have had random dodgy shots on phones and shit. You know, and you can do that now. But you think this was what? 8 years ago?
Fucking hell, 2015, mate. It was 6 years ago. 7.
7 years.
7 years ago.
Oh, 1 year off.
1 year off. I know something about me.
Get it fucking right, Dave.
You sound like my wife. Anyway, 7 years ago. Oh, Jesus. 7 years ago. You know,
it's like 8 inches. No, it's 6.
Like, you watch things. It's not grainy. It's not like
No,
shaky or anything.
No, and that's the thing.
But for 60 grand to set that up, that must have been either really, really fucking quick to film.
Yeah.
Or they had people who were willing to not charge them as much.
Michael Ironside, again, there's no way that dude took his regular fee.
100%.
No way.
100%.
Yeah.
He's obviously taken a bit of a bump to... get this going.
They've done a great job with the film. I just think like I've seen films made on a similar budget which end up looking more cinematic.
Tell me a film you've seen for 60 grand.
No, I do worry that I am fundamentally missing the point because it is trying to look like an 80s film. Yeah. And I think they have done a great job with the budget available. So I'm not going to be overly critical.
So how much does Ironside cost you? This is the point.
That's where I'd love to know his
67 grand. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I love we're the ones doing the podcast. I wish someone could fucking tell us. Yeah. I wish. Because we haven't done the
right now.
Back to facts.
Fuck me, what's on facts?
The kids' journal art was done by one of the creators, Anouk, and she was not proud of it.
So that was the creator. That would have been his mum.
Yeah, that's his mum.
Yeah.
The rat that attacked his face.
The naked mole rat.
Yeah. That was a homage to Peter Jackson's Dead or Alive.
Oh, yeah.
Cool.
And when they did it, originally, the sound they put on was way too tame. And they were like, that's pretty shit. So they put on a bit more of a...
Can I say, Dave, as a guest, I appreciate the work you've put into...
Thanks,
honestly, yeah.
If only somebody put in the work to find out how much fucking Michael Ironside earned to make this movie, but never mind.
The film was filmed in spring in Montreal. But it was the worst spring in 90 years. It was -10 every single day they filmed.
It does look cold.
Yeah.
It looks cold as shit.
I missed that on one of my facts. It was something to do with the fact it wasn't meant to be set during rain. But because... Have you got that?
No.
Because of the rain, they had to actually write something in. The acid rain. Because when they filmed it, it was raining. So they thought, you know what, we'll just talk about acid rain.
It just looks overcast all the time. Yeah.
So here's a good one. Hobo with a Shotgun director, Jason Eisner, cameos shortly before he dies in a very bloody death.
How did he die?
I don't know.
Okay.
He's just got the facts.
I don't know.
Details.
I genuinely don't know who this guy is, so I couldn't point it out, but he dies
I know the film.
Very bloody death.
I've seen Hobo with a Shotgun.
The name Jason Eisner sounds familiar as well.
Well, anyway, let's move on to...
Anyway,
wait, we got more.
Sorry,
keep going.
Bear facts.
Bear facts, bro.
Bear facts. The kids' mum and dad are Anouk and Sim.
Yeah, I said that
one. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Zeus is revealed as a robot. He says, "You made me what I am," which is a line cut from David Cronenberg's Scanners.
Oh, that's cool.
That was a line in there. They cut it out, but they brought it into this film.
Well, that's a list of movies it nods.
And they did say that if David Cronenberg and what's the other guy? Jason Eisner, if they wanted to come into the sequel, they would.
Oh, that's very good.
They would quite happily bring them in.
I'm just thinking of the fact that criminally, I've never seen Scanners, which I really need to sort out.
Have you not seen?
I've not seen it. No.
Well, Scanners.
Is it James
2?
Wood?
Yeah, Scanners 2, Scanner Cop to 4. Like fucking so many Scanner fucking.
Are you
films.
fucking making this up?
No, mate.
Of course not.
Like all these movies, there's 400 of them.
Well, I haven't even seen the first one, but I can tell you, there's only ever danger of me watching the first one. I won't be watching Scanner.
Facts.
Move on to what I think would be the best part, the soundtrack.
Well, I was going to say Legacy first.
Legacy, okay, go on.
So, I mean, I think this is the only film I can think of personally where there's a trio of directors. That's certainly one of its unique selling points. The fact that it's become this, obviously, an absolute cult film, and it did lead to a follow-up film, Summer of '84, which has anyone actually seen Summer of '84?
No, I haven't. No, I hadn't heard of that until you, your day. I can't remember which one. It was like an hour ago. One of you mentioned it.
Yeah.
So I am.
I need to watch that. But
I know there's a sequel coming to Turbo Kid.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing as well. But in terms of scored soundtrack, so if we get to that quickly, I mean, obviously, a lot of it is '80s electronica, and the whole movie sounds like one of those, like those chilled playlists you'd find on Spotify. Like the whole thing sounds like that. And I actually think the soundtrack it's by someone called Matos. I don't know anything about them.
Le Matos,
sorry.
It's electronica as fuck.
Oh, it's electronic as fuck.
Yeah.
But Montreal's best synth 80s rock.
Yeah.
There we go. But it is what makes the film work. Like I actually think the soundtrack is a massive part of this.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, it's like if you make again, to bring it back to the whole video game thing, if you make a video game now, which is kind of it's like an 80s video game and you use all the kind of visual tropes and stuff, the soundtrack is this soundtrack. It's very on the nose. There's no two ways about it. But at the same time, it totally works.
It's just for the film.
If it had nothing to do with the film, And as I said, it was one of those kind of Spotify playlists, like 80s synth chill, and they just played the soundtrack. You can totally imagine playing this on the background, or playing it in the car when you're driving or something like that.
But that's the thing I love about it. How many films do you watch? It's just a hit tune, and a hit tune goes with a hit movie. You know, they didn't go that way. They didn't try and put somebody's music with it. They made music for this film. And it was so 80s, and it was so like. I mean, 15,
it's almost
20 years later.
Did you say Le Matos? Yeah. So he released the official music video for the track, which was it's called No Tomorrow, and it serves as the prequel for the original film.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, if you watch this film, just look for Le Matos, No Tomorrow. It's a prequel to this film, and not the prequel that we said.
There are loads of tunes as well for it.
T is for Turbo. Yeah.
Like, the thing is, even if you hated this film, like, it's totally one of those soundtracks. Like I say, you can just put in the background. It's just super chill. But in the movie, it totally sets the tone for the whole thing. So I actually think it's one of the movie's strongest points is the soundtrack by Matos or Le Matos.
As we were watching, because
musically, it's incredibly good.
Dave, you and I watched this together, and I said to you, because me and you have watched this together a couple of times, twice or three times before.
3 times, yeah.
And I said to you when we were watching this again, my words to you were, Liam's going to love the soundtrack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Of all the things.
The first thing he said was, the soundtrack it shouldn't belong to this film. Because we all knew that instantly it was going to be 80s classics.
Yeah.
And the film is quite budget, but the music doesn't sound like that. It just sounds like
it's mega 80s, but like I think it would have been easy to do like a big hair kind of 80s rock thing, but I don't think the fact that it kind of like it makes it a little bit more self-aware, actually, I think, the soundtrack, because I think that music in and of
stands
itself,
alone, doesn't
I'm
it?
not convinced that 80s electronica, which we think of, which we listen to nowadays, actually maybe existed. I think it's like an interpretation of the music that exists back then.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things that actually bring it out of the 80s and make it clearly a film that was made relatively, it's a contemporary film, but made to feel like an 80s film. I think the soundtrack kind of gives that away, but at the same time, it's such a cool soundtrack, and it works so perfectly with films that I've actually got no complaints. In terms of video games, I mentioned a few times the fact that it feels actually like an adaptation. Like, it's similar to stuff like Dead Island, the totally underrated Rage 2. I'm not sure if you ever played the Mad Max video game, which I fucking adore.
Mad Max is fucking such a great game.
Such a great.
It's amazing.
Same as Rage 2. It's also made by Avalanche, and it's such an outrageously great game. It kind of got swept under the rug at the time because the mechanics were relatively repetitive, and it was like, oh, well, it's another open world, kind of similar to Assassin's Creed. But that sense of like moving across the wasteland was so great, and like upgrading your car. Basically, I just want that video game in this world, bit more comedy, and you're just upgrading your BMX. And that would be absolutely perfect. Or something, another game which kind of maybe captures the more colourful side of this movie is, do you ever play Sunset Overdrive? It was an Xbox One exclusive.
No.
I think it's by Insomniac. Absolutely amazing game. The guys who went on to make Spider-Man, I think.
Okay.
So, like, the traversal and everything's fantastic, but again, I just want it on a fucking BMX, basically. So, in terms of if I was going to make a video game based on this film, I would probably still go with Avalanche. Because they've even got like a bit of kind of history with working with like 80s centric video games.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you ever played Generation Zero. It was one of their lesser known games. It was actually made by Systemic Reaction, which was one of their kind of offshoot companies. But it's still Avalanche, basically. But either way, really what I want is just Mad Max by Avalanche, but with a BMX and with a bit more comedy and, Apple and the kid. That's it. So that's what I'm going to go for.
So you were half in my head. But what I will say is that it's actually meant to be a video game of this coming out in 2022 at some point. I mean, what are we on now? We're on December the 22nd. So whether or not it's coming out now, I don't know.
I'm not hearing anything about it.
I mean, you're half in my head because I thought of Mad Max as well. But what I also thought of, the bike riding element, is Days Gone.
Yeah, it's another great shout.
So Days Gone, I mean,
But it definitely needs a sense of humour, because that game was glum as fuck.
I love that game, but I like that game. I just, the lead character I thought was a bit of a fucking drip. I just thought a bit of levity wouldn't have But I mean, Days Gone was, you can upgrade your motorbike and things like that. So
I think like in desolate kind of wasteland, I think, you replace the zombies with like, I don't know, fucking robots, or just dudes with fucking weird,
I mean, that's it. With a video game, you're going to have to bring more robots into it as the
Yeah.
Instead of just Michael Ironside as the weird business robot. But so
I think I just prefer Mad Max to...
Before we move on to scores or anything, Dave, do you have any video game ideas?
Absolutely nothing.
Well, the one thing I will say, I'm surprised that more video games haven't leaned into the BMX game, because I was like, well, when was the last time we had an open world game which really leaned into BMXs?
Dave's Mirror.
well, that was an open world game.
No,
the one I thought was like San Andreas. That was like the last game where they, I know you could drive cars, but there was a big emphasis, especially at the start of the game, where you were driving around like the hood or whatever the fuck you want to call it, on your BMX. And you could like level up your stats and stuff like that. And I was like, why haven't there been more games like that? So yeah, I definitely think a massive part of this video game should be the Power Glove, and it should be the BMX.
Yeah.
And yeah, Dave's got that to add.
Dave's got ideas. So we're going to move on to scores. Surprise, we're going to make Liam last on this one.
All right, cool.
Because I'm like last week, I'm a bit afraid of what his score is going to be. So I'm going to go first. So for me, I would recommend this to others. I absolutely adore this film. I adore, for the budget, what they have tried to do and what they achieved. I think it's fantastic, and I would like other people to watch this film. And to be fair, it's a 4-star for me. Like, I know that might sound a bit high, but I really, really love this film, and I would watch it again. I really enjoy this film, and I think it's 4 stars.
Fair enough.
Dave?
How about you, Dave?
I 100% know what Rob's saying, and I love this film. I do. I watched it from beginning to end a couple of days ago, and I loved it as much as the first time I watched it. It's not a brilliant film. It's not a brilliant film.
It's a fun film.
It is a fun film. I think I can't give it a 3, but I can't give it a 4. So I think I go 3.5.
3.5. Okay.
Maybe 3.57. just
Just to really fucking annoy
Yeah,
me.
just to annoy Liam.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would give
Hang on,
it...
sorry. Would you recommend this to others?
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant film. It's just not a classic, brilliant, like...
It's a brilliant film. It's just not a brilliant film.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing, isn't it? It's not the film that you say, this is the best film ever. It's not the best film ever. But it's such a good watch, and I love watching it. And that's why I can't give it a 3. But I can't
That's why he has to give it a 3.57.
Yeah, 3.57.
But I can't,
Yeah, of course,
I can't give it a 4, because
So, yeah.
you start looking at 4s, and they're like Oscar-winning films for me. So a 3.5.7.
7, yeah,
is
yeah.
enough.
I'm sorry, that's all we have time for, so we can't listen to Liam's score today. So we'll...
Well, no, it's not going to be surprising. It's not going to be all that revelatory. I mean, in terms of recommendation, I would only recommend it to certain people. Like, the fact of the matter is... I mean, you joke, 100%.
Yeah.
If you hadn't seen this and I watched it, I'd be like, yeah, dude, you should totally watch it. You would love this film. I wouldn't just go recommending this willy-nilly to anyone, because I feel like you have to be a fan of genre cinema. You have to be a fan, realistically, of 80s cinema. So, yeah, just random Joe blogs on the street. I wouldn't be like, dude, you have to see fucking Turbo Kid. It's too niche to just recommend to anyone. But yes, to certain people, I would. And it's a 3-star film. But it's a fun 3-star film.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I really enjoyed it. And even you saying, like, it's a 4-star film, like, obviously I don't 100% agree, but I don't think that's an egregious opinion by any stretch of the imagination. I think this is fun. I think the core characters, great. I love their chemistry throughout. Michael Ironside chewing up the scenery is always fun.
Yeah.
So, certainly coming from somebody who loves 80s cinema and loves all the tropes that they're going for, it's fun. It has its issues. It feels like a university project, but it's still great. And it's like, fucking 90 minutes long. So, yes.
To be fair,
3
as I was
stars,
watching this,
and I would recommend this to certain people.
I was really surprised that you gave it 3 stars, but I'm really pleased with that. So that's absolutely
I didn't hear 3 stars for it.
I did say
you
3
gave
stars.
3? Yeah, you gave 3, yeah.
I think
I
I
just heard him say,
opened strongly.
it's just that kind of...
I mean, there was a lot of justification around 3 stars.
It was definitely 3 stars, yeah.
So that's absolutely fine. So we're going to recommend it to others. In Liam's case, we're going to recommend it to maybe certain people.
To you, basically.
Yeah, basically to me. So actually, as that was our Christmas season, I'm sorry that Turbo Kid wasn't a Christmas film, but I mean...
It is what it is. We're recording at Christmas. I'm literally looking at Rob's Christmas tree as we record this. So despite the fact that it's not a Christmas movie, we are recording at Christmas,
Yeah.
so I think that kind of...
Thank you for joining us for Turbo Kid. We hope you enjoyed it. Next week, we won't
have an episode for you. We are taking a quick New Year's break, but we'll be back in early January with The Rocketeer. This is Darry's choice, and I think it's a fantastic choice. So please join us early January for The Rocketeer. Cheers, guys. We'll see you soon.
Oh, and before we forget, here is Rob with all the finer details. Got to get through those, dude.
Yeah, so basically you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at HeyYouGuys80s. We're also on email at heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Please feel free to drop us any recommendations, any corrections or omissions we may have missed from any of the films that we've covered. Just get them in. And also, if you could, please leave us some 5-star reviews. That would really help us. And we'd like to thank, as always, Darry Fletcher at Darry Doodles for the fantastic artwork that we're now producing. Thanks for that, mate.
Cheers, Darry.
Yeah. And thanks again for listening, and we will see you next week.
Cheers. Bye.
Hey, you guys!